Wendy Gardner, editor of Sewing World magazine and also contributor to the iSew website. Today I'm going to show how to insert an invisible zip or a concealed zip. This is really the easiest zip to do, even if you're an absolute beginner. Now, a regular zip, as you can see here, you can see the teeth and it's got a big zip pull, and when it's sewn in you can see the stitching on the outside. With an invisible zip you can't see any of the teeth and you've got a tiny little zip pull, and when it's stitched in there's no stitching because all the stitching is done onto the seam allowance, so all you do see is the little tiny pull at the top. Now I'll show you how to do it, but the thing you do need to do this really successfully is an invisible zip foot. A regular foot has a central pin and you can get nice and close, but with an invisible zip foot you have a big groove on the back side of it and the teeth fit into that groove so that you can stitch really close to the teeth. So the first thing to do is to take off your regular foot and put on the invisible zip foot. Now you do need to get one that fits your machine. Unfortunately, not one fits all. The other thing that differs with an invisible zip is the fact that you stitch the zip in before finishing the rest of the seam. So the first step is to press the seam allowance to the wrong side so that you get a nice crisp pressed line, and then opening out the fabric and buttoning them up, I'm going to place the open zip in position just to make sure I put it round the right way. So the right side is the side without the teeth, so I place that down and I'm just going to pin one side roughly in position. I'll come and deal with that in a minute, but on the other side I'm going to now pick it up, holding it in place, and open out the fabric so I can see the fold, and then pin the zip so that the teeth are right along that fold, which is an invisible zip or a concealed zip. Is that you do need to get one about an inch longer than you would regularly get, because you can't actually stitch to the very end. Because the pull is in the way, you can only stitch to about an inch from the end. So get one that's an inch longer than what you would normally do. And then quite literally I put that on the machine and I start stitching. I'm just going to make sure my needle can go through the hole, so I'm going to have to move my needle over. Check it goes through the hole, bring up the bobbin thread, so I'm now ready to sew. Literally you drop your foot down so that the teeth are in the groove. Make sure the needle's in the right place and it goes down through that small hole, and then it's going to be nice and close to the teeth. Now I've placed the needles down the length of the zip so that I don't have to baste, but if you prefer to baste and you're more confident having done that, then please do. And you literally just start sewing. So as you can see, that's as far as I can go. Open out the fabric and make sure the zip is pinned with the teeth along the crease. So we put the second side in, and as you can see, the teeth will now fit under the other groove, and the stitching is nice and close to the teeth. So as before, go as far as you can go towards the end and then just back stitch a little bit, or fix stitch if your machine has that, just to lock those stitches in, and then you take it out. And now we need to change feet to put on the regular zip foot in order to stitch the rest of the seam or beyond the zip. So I've done the zip up, and now I literally pin the rest of the seam together, ready to sew. And I'm going to start the sewing where the zip sewing has finished. So it's above the end of the zip, of course, because you couldn't get to the very end. So the next step is to sew down the tail. So I'm literally going to sew that end just to the seam allowance again, so fold the rest out of the way. And then I shall do the same again with the other side. Just sew that tail end to the seam allowance only, so that it can't flap about or dig into your back. And that's it, the zip's done. No stitching on the outside, and all you can see is the little end, the zip pull. So this is just one method of inserting a zip, and as I said, I think it's the easiest. But for regular zip insertion, centred zips, side zips, fly zips, etc., do visit the website www.isew.co.uk, and you'll have plenty of tips and hints. So for now, I'm Wendy Gardner. Happy sewing!